Good morning. July 3rd. I'd like to call to order our meeting for the Vision Zero Advisory Committee staff. Will you please call roll call so we can see if we have a quorum?
At this time, I'm only asking those VZAC members attending in person to respond by saying here when I call your name. Alternates, please also state your name if you are attending on behalf of a VZAC representative. As a reminder, please press your microphone button to turn on and off. Bruce Rosenwig,
Here.
Mosey Abdurrahmanov,
Here.
Ted Goodenough is excused. Joanne Scaria,
Here.
Fadi Nazar,
Here.
Ryan Mugridge,
Sergeant Yoder here for Ryan Leggers.
JC Beery,
Here.
David Willock,
Here.
Daniel Duenas is excused. Farah Tekbali.
Here.
Joelle Shaw. Christian Santa Gonzalez. Joel Rosales.
Ashley Orones in place of Joel Rosales here.
Jermaine Swaby. Tim Crespo. Clinton Williams is excused. Tracy Phelps.
Here.
Stephanie Thoborn.
Here.
Claudette De Los Santos. Catherine Wall.
Here.
Sinead Simon is excused. Thank you. We have quorum.
Thank you, Ruth. Are there any modifications to the agenda?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay, so next item are the minutes from the May 8th, 2025 meeting. Are there any changes to the minutes? Does anyone? Joanne?
I just have a small edit to the top of page 2 to my name.
Sorry about that. Thank you.
And if no one else has any edits, I'll move to approve the minutes.
I just have one question. Was Joelle's here? Because I have her at the meeting.
I'm sorry, who?
Joelle Shaw.
Joelle Shaw. I'll have to take a look at our records
Okay.
again, but I can check that.
If you could just verify that, but I don't have any other changes.
Okay, thank you.
So motion to approve. Do we have a second?
I can second.
Moisey second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Moving on to general comments and public comments on the agenda items. There are instructions on how to provide public comments that are in the agenda. Staff, have any general comments been provided to you?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay, so we can move on. Comments from the board. And anyone have anything to give us some, Joanne? Oh, good.
I just want to say I attended the Vision Zero workshop last month in June, and a few of the other members attended, and it was a really great workshop, and I appreciate the TPA staff putting it on.
Great. Sorry, I missed that one. Do we have Tracy?
I see this is on the liaisons report too, but the city of Boca Raton finished. We had the 5th best complete street policy. According to Smart Growth America's 2025 best complete street policies, and we were 5th best in the United States. I think we would have been better if my boss wouldn't have changed the policy that I did. So we might have been could have been the top 3, but he changed a few things, and Valentina, who was there at the time, didn't like that. So that wasn't good. So maybe we could have got top 3, but I guess I'll settle for top 5. And we had our bike rodeo in May, which I mentioned, and we had ordered a bunch of bike helmets, way too many. So we're actually going to have an event next Thursday at Fuller Center. It's affordable child care, well-rounded support system. Is the purpose, and we're gonna have an event there for helmet fitting. And I think we're gonna get help from the Boca Bike Club with the fitting. So we're pretty excited about that. And that's all I got.
Thanks, Tracy. Catherine?
Yes, I'd like to share a few things. Thank you. One, that we are having a child passenger safety technician class this July 14th through 17th in partnership with Palm Beach County Fire Rescue. It'll be at the main station on Pike. And then we will be having another class in September, the 24th through the 27th. That is National Child Passenger Safety Week, with that Saturday, the 27th, being National Seat Check Saturday. To tie into that, we're also bringing to Palm Beach County, I think it used to be a long time ago, but something called Car Fit, where it's a station where older drivers can go to check to see that their seatbelt is fitting correctly across their chest to be sure that their steering wheel is at the correct distance. So we'll be doing that training. More to come. The flyers should be out, but the training will be on August 29th. It's another great tool for your tool belts if you're working with the elderly population or actually any drivers. And then we'll incorporate that with our Seat Check Saturday on September 27th. We'll be distributing car seats. I think we have about 50 car seats donated for that day. And we'll also be working with all of the drivers coming in to do the car fit with them. Last but not least, super excited, Safe Kids hosts a coalition. That's what Safe Kids is all about. A staff of 4 cannot manage child injury prevention in a county this size by ourselves. So we couldn't do it without all of our wonderful partners. From our last few coalition meetings, we've talked a lot about the micromobility and the issues that are coming up with our residents, and particularly our kids that are on these devices. So with that, we started a subcommittee, and it is blossoming. We had our first meeting, and I'm happy to say, of course, the TPA was there. Thank you very much. We had Delray Trauma, St. Mary's, FDOT, Healthcare District. Many other partners have expressed interest. We do have another subcommittee meeting. We'll be doing it via Zoom on July 23rd at 1:30. So if you're interested to get involved with that, let me know. And I'm working very closely with Sol and Brian to work that out. But it takes many of us, the education, the enforcement, the engineering, to all the 5 E's to approach an issue as crazy as this. So thank you for your support.
Thank you for those updates. And it's good timing, Tracy. If you want to give us some bike helmets, we'll pass them out too.
You mentioned.
Oh, Fadi?
Microphone, please, buddy.
July 23rd,
July 23rd.
And what's that?
1:30.
Great. Okay. Thanks, everyone, for the updates. I don't have anything to add. With that, I see, well, one of my questions is actually on your VZAC report. So Brian Ruscher is going to provide that report for us.
Thank you. Brian Ruscher, Deputy Director of Multimodal, your fill-in, half-baked liaison here, filling in for Sol Tangvik, who is out there in the ether. So we appreciate her listening in. If any questions for her come across, you can join as well. But to dive right into the liaison report, our fiscal year 25 annual report is published. So all of you should have a copy of this document in front of you. Our public involvement team works very hard to make sure that we produce really high quality materials and reflection of the agency work and participate in the work throughout the year. So we're really happy that this report does a great job reflecting all the work that we do with your communities. Yes, it's featuring the new US 1 bridge up in Jupiter to Cuesta. So we're really happy about that project moving along and moving forward. There's a lot of material and a lot of information here. We'll get into a little bit with our strategic plan report, but just wanted to highlight this for you all. Please do take it home or read it over the long weekend if you so like, and you find a little bit of time when you're hanging out watching fireworks. Our 2050 long range regional transportation plan, the RTP for Broward, Miami-Dade, and Palm Beach County has been adopted, and you can review it at the 2050rtp.com. As Mr. Phelps alluded to, congratulations to the city of Boca Raton for their adopted complete streets policy, which was ranked 5th best in the nation across all policies that were reviewed in the 2023 and 2024 timeframe. They were compared against 50 other municipalities across the country, and being top 5 is a really great mark. So hopefully next time your policy doesn't get changed and you can get number 1. The congratulations are in order also to the village of Wellington for receiving the Livable Communities designation from AARP. This is something that we encourage all our communities to look into, especially because we're here in South Florida. This is a really good designation where they go in and evaluate policies, procedures, your infrastructure, similar to Smart Growth America, but it takes a little bit more of a quality of life approach. So we'd encourage you to take a look at that program and get with AARP to see what it takes to be as part of that program. I think it also provides benefits for things like micro grants and others that are available through AARP. Of particular importance, something we highlighted at the Vision Zero Action Plan Update Workshop was the Crash Dashboard, which is now live at palmbeachtpa.org/crash dashboard. That is a large effort underway through the multimodal team, and then obviously with participation from our programs team, especially Mr. Massa here in the crowd, helped to really put together a really solid display for local jurisdictions to go in and evaluate the crash hotspots across the county, filter by jurisdiction, emphasis area. It really helps to give you a better understanding of what the crashes are on each corridor, or at a kind of zoom out county perspective without having to sift through like the statewide data. So we encourage you all to go and take a look at that as well. Also, as mentioned before, we hosted 2 workshops, the Vision Zero Action Plan Workshop and the Transit-Oriented Communities Workshop. Great updates on both fronts. The Vision Zero Action Plan is now live on our website. You'll get an update on that later, and you'll be able to review it, look at it, and see what actions we're going to take as an agency online. We also published the Transit-Oriented Communities policy for the TPA online, as well as the strategy framework that we use to help develop the policy and understand where we are as a county. That is online at tpa.org/mobility planning resources. The TPA is hosting a WTS luncheon on July 29th. That is Women in Transportation. So we'd encourage everybody to maybe consider coming and participating in that luncheon at 11:30 on the 29th. We have a couple workshops coming up. The first of which is the project design and review training. So the TPA is going to be hosting FDOT and their process and procedures teams across many different things that they do. So if you're involved with project reviews at DOT in your jurisdiction, with preliminary context classification, with multimodal scoping, or with electronic review of plans, and I know that those are really crazy and technical, but if you want to get involved with the design of DOT projects in your jurisdiction, this is a workshop for you. So we'd strongly encourage we've encouraged all of our committees to attend. If you want to learn more about how DOT does their projects, this will be a really great project for you to participate in. That's going to be August 19th at 9:30 a.m. The next workshop that we're hosting actually came from the Micromobility Committee that Safe Kids hosted and the TPA participated in. So we're really happy to be partnering with our local jurisdictions, hearing their needs and hosting where we can. That workshop is going to be on September 10th. You can register to attend either virtually or in person at palmbeachtpa.org/micromobility. We're going to discuss new strategies that the state has authorized local municipalities to participate in terms of state statutory changes, design for micromobility facilities, and just have like a general facilitated discussion on where many of the communities are to try to better meet the needs of where we're going to go into the next year for us. Lastly, we publish our Vision Zero Safe Streets and Roads for All updates online at palmbeachtpa.org/safety. And as always, if you're not signed up for our newsletter, please do sign up for it. That is where you're going to hear about these things. You're going to get reminders for them. You're going to hear about partner events and other resources that you can help use to get you into the know for transportation.
Great, thank
And
you.
these last you all skip.
Thanks for the updates. There's a lot of meaty stuff in here for us to follow.
Very
through.
meeting.
Yeah, I mean, Tracy.
Number 10, the e-bike and micro mobility safety workshop.
Yes, sir.
Is that being put on by you guys we're doing the presentation of the TPA?
That will be hosted by the TPA, and we're we are actively, getting partners together to work on that as well. We'll probably have, a variety of speakers and partners. We're hoping that we can have a national draw from, the National Vision Zero Alliance or others, as well as, even local, either law enforcement or nonprofits that are willing to participate. So we've already had some discussions, but if you know of presenters or you would like to suggest some, we're open.
No, I'm going to take a similar workshop at the ITE conference in August. And I just, as they're offering a similar type of workshop, and I
Is
just
that in
didn't want to
Orlando?
do both of them if they're both being presented by the same people. So,
Yeah, and we'll probably try to tailor it a little bit more to our needs. So we'll probably cover micromobility in terms of e-scooters, e-bikes, and we might sprinkle in a little bit on golf carts because that does pop in a little bit as well.
Catherine, do you have something? Okay. That's my signal.
Sorry.
You covered a lot of good information. On the legislative updates regarding the e-bikes, that'll be a really good one because as we know, e-bikes are considered bicycles. So they follow the rules of regular bikes without the same parameters. So it'll be interesting to see that. So definitely and I'm really glad to hear that you have it in a digital format over the internet so that the law enforcement and I know we are very concerned as well as Tequesta, given the recent fatality of the 14-year-old young man earlier this year, which and then a serious uh, uh, injury associated with that same incident. So it's a very serious topic. Okay, so if we don't have anything else on that one, we'll move forward with our action items, which is the fiscal year 2027 to 2031 list of priority projects. And the list of priority projects guides the Florida Department of Transportation's 5-year work program and the TPA's Transportation Improvement Program. And Andrew Euler, the Deputy Director of Multimodal, will present this item. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, everyone. So this is the list of priority projects. So this is going towards our new development of our Transportation Improvement Program. We just adopted the Transportation Improvement Program last month for fiscal years 26 through 30. So this is covering the next cycle, which will be adopted for our TIP in June of next year, and then we operated on this one. So we're always in a cycle of moving through our Transportation Improvement Program from the LRTP to the list of priority projects, the work program, and the TIP. So in this list of priority projects, it really focuses on the TPA priorities, and it's focusing on the funds, the federal and state funds that are really within our control in some ways to prioritize towards projects over the next 5 years. And so this is going to cover 27 through 31. And as we've spoke about in the past, the outer year is referred to as the new 5th year. So that would be 2031. The reason we highlight the new 5th year oftentimes is because that's where the majority of new funding is available. And so a lot of phases will come out in that new 5th year. So we're moving forward through all the products from prior years, and that new 5th year has the bulk of funding. One exception to that is the Transportation Alternatives Program that the VZAC is familiar with. So in the development process, again, it's going to be starting up here, and then we're going to have the LLPP today adopted by the governing board, and then it goes all the way to the work program and the TIP. So it really starts with product development, and that's from the long range transportation plan, our 25-year vision. Products are in there as line items. They're also identified as particular programs if there's program related ones, such as the Transportation Alternatives Program. Those are then submitted products from our competitive grant programs, and the LRTP are vetted to move forward into the list of priority projects. And with that, it requires cost estimates, vetting of those with field review, showing local support, and then we try to move those products in their phases into the list of priority products to be funded. So today, again, we're covering the TPA priorities, major products, transportation alternatives, Sun Trail. Once this list is adopted here in July, it's then sent to FDOT, and that will then be used in their prioritization for the next work program that they're building. So it brings in TPA priorities, other programs they have, and the state's priorities to have a draft tentative work program. And then depending on the year of this legislature, because sometimes there's an earlier cycle and a later cycle, last year for our current tip was a later cycle. So we saw the work program for the first time in December. Since the shorter cycle, after that has a shorter amount of time to get this thing turned around, they will come to the governing board in October to present that. Once we receive those files, because it's just a quick turnaround, we do send those out to the committees to notify them of the release of the work program. And then the district secretary and FDOT comes and does a presentation in October. Once they receive comments, they then start working on their final work program, which serves as the basis of our transportation improvement program, adopted again in June. So just to restate, sort of the tip is really this program and production pipeline of projects. So products can have various phases, some more complex than others. And so products may go through a series of PD&E design. If it needs right-of-way or utilities or environmental phases, it may have that, and then construction. Other products that are shorter term, products that don't require right-of-way, such as a transportation alternatives program, such as FDOT's resurfacing program, typically do not require right-of-way. And so they might have design, and then 2 years later, they'll have construction. So the tip includes hundreds of projects for Palm Beach County. The ones we're focusing again on today are the TPA priority products. So those ones that we have more of a understanding of funding availability and the priorities that the TPA pushes forward. And then you have other programs that we have in our tip with the strategic intermodal system of FDOT, other federal, state, and funded products, airports, railports, and seaports, et cetera. And so a little bit of a reformatting of our list of priority products this year, trying to give a better understanding of anticipated revenues that we know would be coming to our area to prioritize. And so we have both federal and state funding amounts for major products and local initiatives. So some of those larger scale projects, we have around $23.8 million in federal funds through our urban area surface transportation block grant. So those are from federal transportation bills. We receive an amount based on our population in the urban area. That's ours to prioritize, around $23.8 million spent towards that. We then also receive money that can be from the state highway system funds, and these are typically gas taxes on the state system, and they can be spent on state roadways. That's about $16.5 million. That one does vary a little bit more, definitely more than the formula funds we receive from the federal government. So that number does fluctuate, but on average, around that is what we expect. And then Transportation Alternatives Program are all federal funds, and it's about $5.1 million total. And those are, again, through our urban area formula funds to spend. And then also the state receives federal funds for transportation alternatives called any area funds. And then they typically give that to the MPOs to spend. So that's why you see that 5.1 total overall. One other thing I want to mention on this before I move on to the next slides, anticipated funding amounts. This is sort of our anticipation if funding remains stable into outer years, right? So transportation alternatives is for fiscal year 29, it's a 3-year cycle. And then the other ones up there, 40.3 million is in the outer year, 2031. So this is if money remains stable for our revenue sources. We are in the last years of our federal transportation bill. It's the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, the IIJA, that came out a few years ago. That finishes up next year in 2026. So discussions are already ongoing in Congress, and it's probably be more of a conversation coming up here in the next few months and later into this year and in the next year about the new federal transportation bill. And we may see changes in how much federal funds we have to directly prioritize, how many discretionary grant programs are out there, what needs-based programs are out there. So that's going to be probably a big shift than what we had in this last IIJA. And then going into our specific programs, I'm just going to provide highlights of ones that we can anticipate for requesting to be programmed. The document as a whole is much larger, it includes all the ones that are already programmed. So I just wanted to focus on the highlights. The first ones are major products, again, from our LOTP, advancing our TPA's vision. Both federal and state funds, those state funds can be used on state roads. Those federal funds can be used on or off the state system. And it's typically a 5-year timeline. So you're seeing a lot of this money in the outer fiscal years of 31. Request highlights. I'll go quickly through these. We have a lot of them that are still unfunded in outer years, and it shows it by phase. So we have 2 US 1 projects, the first being a lane repurposing project from North Lake Boulevard to Parker Bridge. That's up in Lake Park. Construction for $11 million. We then have US 1 Dixie Federal Junction to Gregory Road. That's in Lake Worth. That was originally a lane repurposing, is now a reconstruction project with safety benefits, traffic calming, seeking design in the 2031 for 1.36 million. Both of those projects originated in some ways out of the US 1 multimodal corridor study that TPA completed. And they're also both potentially seeking other sources for shared use network of trails, Sun Trail, if possible. Next, we have 18-3. It's a US 27 connector. So this is that study that is occurring right now by AFDOT feasibility study on the TPA's prioritization out in the Glades community for different alignments to divert a lot of truck traffic off of the main State Road 80 Main Street of the Glades community in South Bay and instead divert to other locations or maybe reconstruct that roadway itself. So that alignment study is almost done. They're about 95% complete. They're just doing a little bit more outreach and a survey with community members. But that's the feasibility study. What this is requesting is the next part of that, which would be the PD&E, Product Development Environmental Study, to get an actual preferred alternative. And this is requesting those PD&E funds in an outer year. Next is a series of Boca Raton and Palm Beach County signal projects. They were submitted by both Boca and Palm Beach County individually. These are going to be administered by AFDOT. Design is already going to be starting up here pretty soon in this fiscal year 26 that we're currently operating under. The right-of-way construction is request for outer years. So these projects have been sort of consolidated and changed around based on sort of the needs of how AFDOT's going to deliver these projects. But those are large amounts there for right-of-way and construction, 7.6 and 8.7 million. Then have 2 safety projects on Forest Hill Boulevard and Congress Avenue, includes lighting, some other safety improvements in an outer year for construction. Just an example of sort of mentioned earlier, and you're probably familiar with if you have submitted through us, all these projects that come through when they're trying to get into the design and construction phase, what's submitted to us for review is typically a typical section, some preliminary design plans, cost estimates, local support. And so here's an example of that product, US 1 from North Lake Boulevard to Parker Bridge. This is a concept to have in those shared use pathways, 12 feet on both sides that can accommodate pedestrians and bicyclists, and then also having the 5-foot bike lanes in the roadway for users. And then to round out the request for major projects, we have Indiantown Road at Central Boulevard. It's an intersection reconstruction. The PD&E for that is starting up here pretty soon in 26. And then this is asking for design funds of around $857,000. So closer to $1 million. Something like that, where it's just a design fund of that amount and PD&Es are already getting started here soon. That might be something that does advance a little bit more quickly, right? So it's $1 million. The request is in 2031, but it might be one of those ones where production schedule can really push that a little faster than that. Then we have additional design for Palm Beach County and Boca Raton signals for other products. And then lastly, this is a new request on the list, is a study of $1 million from our portion of it for US 27 rail corridor from Miami all the way to Martin County. And so through our regional partners, Southeast Florida Transportation Council, we had it in the liaison report by Brian about the adoption of the regional transportation plan. One of the priorities in there, and one of the priorities by resolution from SAFTech was for FDOT to study this for a potential rail corridor connection. So there already are rail corridors in the Glades community. What this is studying is a connection, extension of the rail along US 27 from Miami all the way up to the Glades community, and then using existing rail lines, maybe needing some improvements up to Martin County. Our portion that we have in here is around 1 million, but it's really going to be an effort between all the MPOs to put money in and prioritize. Local initiatives, finishing up this program, just two final requests here, $1.27 million for additional funds for Barrock Road, sticking those in fiscal year 27 for shared use pathways. And there's a limit change to now be Lake Ida Road to Boynton Beach city limits. And then we had flashing yellow arrows for $3 million for Palm Beach County, both construction. Flashing arrows, a lot of the products that are signal products in the county are having these sort of installations in there. This is from their website. They have more handouts when it comes to what flashing arrows do and the safety benefits for and other efficiency benefits when it comes to these. So allowing now, instead of having a protected left, you can have at different times permissive or protected lefts. Transportation alternatives are non-motorized projects towards pedestrian bicycle facilities, our most vulnerable users that you all are familiar with. This can be used on and off the federal aid eligible system. Annual funding of $5.1 million in federal funds. This was increased from our prior ones years ago, this amount because of that IIJA. So the transportation alternatives funding available to the MPOs was increased in this last IIJA transportation bill. So it's at $1.5 million per project. It's a 3-year time horizon. So design starts in year 1 by the locals. It's completely a local design process. And then construction is in fiscal year 3 with those federal funds. So that'd be fiscal year 29. Oh, I almost missed one here. So photo on the right is North Shore Pedestrian Bridge in West Palm Beach. This is a photo taking with construction workers out there. One of those bridges that you can just drop in, a wide bridge across the canal there. It's almost open now. This is from this last month. So this is a product in West Palm Beach to connect those two communities. And then the new requests, $5.5 million in total for fiscal year 29. So that's going to be 3 years out. We have Northeast 2nd Ave in Palm Springs, shared use paths. There's North Military Trail shared use paths from Gardens Lake Drive to I-95 and Winchester to the canal and Palm Beach Gardens. Northeast 4th Ave intersection reconstruction and speed management, and that's in Delray. And then we have Kirk Road, a Palm Beach County project for shared use paths. The cap here is $1.5 million. Right now, with the initial cost estimates for the activities that can be reimbursed, it totals $5.5 million. Example of one of those products is that Northeast 4th Ave project in Delray Beach. So when it's submitted, there's designed documents, there's cost estimates, support from locals submitted in those applications. This one also had a initial audit out in the field with elected officials, other community members, and planners and engineers. So walk audit identified some issues, and then Delray in the end also submitted for this based on that walk audit and other analysis, some traffic calming measures. So enhanced crosswalks, changing curb radii, putting in some medians for traffic calming. So these are the kind of products we get submitted and the level of detail we get. So that rounded out my updates for highlights. Again, that's only the ones that we anticipate really potential funding for. We always try to oversubscribe to our list, meaning that if there's funding available, we have more things on that list that we can get funded. Some of these phases may accelerate past 2031, and then the TA one is in fiscal year 29. So we'll work with AFDOT to always try to accelerate when we can and seek other funding opportunities. Next step, so this is the committees and governing board. It then gets submitted to AFDOT. AFDOT again creates that draft tentative work program for us to see. And they present that to the governing board. That's going to be in October this year. And then from that, they'll work on the final work program. And that's what serves as the basis of our transportation improvement program. And then we'll be adopting that in June, and then it'll be active in July. And I'll be here talking next year about the next one.
Thanks, Andrew. Are there any public comments, Ruth?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay. Do we have any committee member comments? Tracy? Oh, and then David. Tracy, you could go ahead.
All right. When did DOT combine our signal project? Because that's the first time I've noticed that. That's in Palm Beach County.
I apologize. Yes, Tracy, we can reach out to you with the product manager and talk through those. It was originally just county products, but it looks like they added a few BOCA applications, some of the signals that were submitted in BOCA applications to those. So I'll make sure you get coordinated with those projects. So they really submitted both BOCA and Palm Beach County submitted projects. And what AFDOT's doing is some look like they require right-of-way based on ADA constraints. So they need to fix that. So they need to put right-of-way in some of these products. And so they're separating out ones that have right-of-way and ones that do not. And then they're separating them out by sort of location. So there's a lot of products. There's probably, or signals. There's dozens of signals between the two agencies, BOCA and Palm Beach County. So how they separated it, I'm still coordinating with them on, but we'll loop you into that conversation with you and Naresh.
Yeah. Paying for it, so I'm not gonna complain. I just saw on a couple, and then on one of your slides, you had another project that said Palm Beach County and Boca Raton. But I think that was just Palm Beach County. It said and I noticed the rank said 23-2 and 23-3, and those are just Palm Beach County. It wasn't Boca. If that's
Okay, I see what you're saying. Yep, I can fix that. It may just be Palm Beach County.
And I think the slide after that, you had one that said rank 23-8 as Palm Beach County flashing yellow arrows.
Mhm.
And I don't see that on that list. Now 23-2 is flashing yellow arrows for Palm Beach County.
This one's
Yeah, 23-8.
this one's on the local initiatives one. It's the last project on the local initiatives list, 23-H versus the major products list.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's all I had.
Thank you. And we'll coordinate with you and Naresh on that. And I'll fix those ones that say BOCA if they're not BOCA.
David,
You had mentioned that the US 27 study was just about completed. I was just curious if we're going to see the results of that study, like
One
some
thing-
kind of presentation. I mean, I just been following it all along, and I'm curious kind of how they came about whatever their decision is.
Sure, we can, and this was that preliminary study, right? So it still has there's 4 alignments total. And they're still going to maintain the 4 alignments as they head into PD in a few years, is from our understanding. But once it's finished up, we can make sure we send it out.
The consultant can't do a presentation?
We can request that and see if they're available to do another presentation.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it might be something that's like pretty short, depending on, because this study has gone a little long, so I don't know how much money is available from their consultants to come out and do another presentation for committees and board. But we'll space with the product manager and so we can give you a,
Okay, I'd just like to ask them some questions.
Sure.
I'm pretty sure I know which alignment they're going to pick.
Okay. Joanne?
I just wanted to share that I'm excited to see the TA projects that are ranked this year. Congratulations to Palm Springs and Delray Beach and Palm Beach County. And of course, Palm Beach Gardens is ranked #2 for our shared use path on North Military Trail. And that's actually a joint project because North Military Trail is a county road in that section. So appreciation to the county for their consent to work on that project with us. And hopefully it's the first of many.
Collaboration, love it. I have a couple of things. One, if everybody else, I want to make sure. Okay, so I saw on Sun Trail, there was 23-1 under major projects, table 1. I didn't see any funding going to that one. So is that just a placeholder? How does
Yes.
that work?
Yeah, you'd have to apply in the application cycle this year. And it's on my list to talk to Jupiter Gardens and North Palm Beach about that connection as well. Basically north of PGA Boulevard. We would really love to see more getting placed on that list. And we would go through a process to update the LOPP when that application cycle opens up for any projects that come. But ultimately, we feel at staff that there's a really good opportunity to pursue a connection from PGA all the way up to the county line. And we've talked about this project a little bit before along US 1, but I think it's the right time to try to move that forward. But it requires Juno Beach, all of the municipalities have to come to a conclusion that the alignment needs to shift slightly from A1A or Ocean Drive, excuse me, to US 1, and then we can start talking about how that project would move forward. But it is it's a larger coordination effort that we would like to take before October. So we'd be happy to talk offline with some of you about the project development and what that could look like. But right now, the project request really won't be fulfilled through the draft tentative work program unless the application comes forward for the next phase for either design or what have you with wherever the projects are. So in this case, it's Juno Beach and Jupiter for US 1. So more than likely DOT is not going to prioritize funding for that unless that application goes in.
Right, right. Yeah, and so that kind of is segue to the other question I had regarding our Sun Trail portion, which is 21-6. No, that's not the right one. It's the other one where I had a question because it still says Loxahatchee.
Oh.
It still says Loxahatchee River. And, we want to make sure that our Sun Trail portion goes to the northern boundary of our municipal limits so that so that Tequesta can pick it up. So I just saw that it
Well-
showed it to Loxahatchee River again.
We'll make that modification
Okay.
as part of a modified motion recommendation to adopt.
Okay, yeah, and then I look forward to talking to you all again about continuing Sun Trail to the south and through Juneau and the gardens, and it just makes everything really stronger for us. We are also going to be, we have a section of East Coast Greenway, which is a portion that goes from Maine to the Keys. So we're really proud about that. And we're going to be doing a grand opening ceremony in October on that. So we're really excited about Sun Trail and being part of that with our new bridge that made the cover. So I'm just saying. Tracy.
One of the projects I seen on the list was Spanish River and Federal Highway. That was way back in the 2020. I can pretty much assure you that the cost of a mast arm has almost doubled in those 5 years. So what happens? A project that old, when it finally gets to the point where it's starting to be designed and constructed, when cost which is a cost overrun, which was not our fault. Nobody's fault other than,
Mhm.
the cost of materials and things what happens when that situation comes up.
Yep, thank you. And Tracy's referring to on the major products table, 20-1. It's not on the PowerPoint, so, but it's 20-1 Federal Highway at Spanish River. Construction's in fiscal year 2030. We're going to be dealing with a lot of these coming up here. I think, especially for the signals products and some of these other ones that were taking a while to get started. It's going to have design here already underway. So hopefully we can have some understanding of a better cost estimate that comes through, and we update this long range estimate. Right now it's at $2.7 million in fiscal year 30. So, but your point stands, it's going to be up there higher than that. And our approach to that is, obviously we try to make it whole as much as we can with AFDOT. So this is going to be a state roadway. So state and federal funds can be used on it. So we'll do our best to cover most of the cost of this. In these circumstances, there may be a request for locals to have some funds on it. Especially with our other programs where they're the ones that the locals do oversee administration for, we definitely cap it there. But this product on the major product list probably won't be capped at a certain amount for a federal and state investment. So we'll try to fully fund it. If we can't, we'll have to figure some other items out, local funds or moving other projects, trying to get it delivered.
I think it's not unprecedented, also given recent project cost increases, to also have to delay projects based off of that, those cost increases. So notice that the past few years, we haven't really done a call for projects per se over the major projects list. It's been strictly TA because that program is a little bit more stable, set in, federal statutes and whatnot. So we'll probably not be able to advance as many projects from the LRTP into the LOPP simply because of the cost increases. But we do hope to keep a really accurate, representation of what those costs are. It's just we don't know until it enters into that phase. So that's why we see Andrew almost like in a Groundhog Day type presence, coming up presenting 4 times a year on developing a similar presentation.
Okay. Do I have any other discussion, Fadi? Okay, just checking. If we don't have any other discussion, can I get a motion? Recommendation to adopt the fiscal year 2027, 2031 list of priority projects.
I'll move to adopt the list of priority projects for 2027 to 2031.
I'll second.
And second by David. All those
Can we just make sure that it's as with modifications as discussed?
With modifications as discussed. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, it passes unanimously. And on to the next item, which is the fiscal year 2026 strategic plan, which specifies the actions of the TPA. And Andrew, oh, wait, you're not Andrew. No, you're not Andrew.
I'm gonna give him a break.
Okay, so
You'll see.
Brian Ruscher will be presenting this item for us today.
That's all right. No, Brian Ruscher, Deputy Director of Multimodal, here to present the fiscal year 2026 draft plan and the 25 report card. So diving right in, looking back at what we accomplished over the past year. So we're really proud of all of the engagement that our committees have undertaken, the staff work that's been completed, and the engagement from our governing board and supporting the agency and moving the agency forward. Our strategic plan really falls in line with our unified planning work program. So if you've kind of, in a nerd-like way, track how the TPA works, we are operating under a 2-year federal grant. That grant is basically contracted with the FHWA and FDOT through the Unified Planning Work Program, or UPWP. So unlike maybe municipal or a county or an otherwise strategic plan that maybe a municipality or a county has to adopt, we kind of have to operate our strategic plan on a year-to-year basis. Now, what that means for us is that we have to be short. We have to keep our goals and our outcomes short and nimble, but very direct. And so you'll see that in this 25 strategic plan report card, reflected in some of the language that we use specifically to track our outcomes, and then it's carried forward into 26 as well. So I will take the liberty of not making you read the entire screen, and I will pick my favorite from each goal to walk through some of the accomplishments, but some liberties to maybe take a quick elaboration on 2 or 3 of them. So for fiscal year 25, we accomplished all of our goals and our outcomes have been tracked with the exception of one for goal 1, social media engagement. And I'll give you a little bit of a reason why. So in fiscal year 24, we had a goal of 125,000 users reached, and we hit 350,000. So we did not hit that goal that we established based off of the prior year's success, but we did still reach 232,000 people across social media on all of our platforms. As I've asked all of the committees to please take out their phones, go like all of the posts from the TPA over the past 12 years. Maybe we'll get to 350,000, but I don't think that's a good use of all of our time. So we did hit up the other metrics in terms of increasing our video views. We hit over 1,000 comments, of which we reply to and provide input into our plans via our transportation planning efforts. And we made 29 presentations to partner agencies. For goal number 2, planning the system. This has to do largely with the short-term planning efforts that the TPA undertakes and our planning policies that we undertake. We're very proud of our Vision Zero Action Plan update, which you're going to receive a presentation on briefly. We have our micromobility rail access study. We went to all of our tri-rail stations and a little bit to our Brightline stations, although those are private operators and they don't allow as many vehicles on board. So that's not as big of an emphasis area, but we did go to all of our stations, look at them for micromobility access, walking, biking, e-biking. We found that bicycles have largely been replaced by e-bikes on the train service. I would venture to guess, having been to all the station areas, seeing all the passengers, probably 80% e-bicycles now compared to regular bicycles and some e-scooters and one wheels. For this, we are also proud to have published a transportation-oriented communities policy. And so many of you are probably familiar with the concept of transit-oriented development, which is specifically, developing land around transit stations. Transit-oriented communities is a little bit different simply because transit in Palm Beach County and transit along corridors all has to be in unison and harmonious to make a transit system work. It can't just be, the downtown with, a lot of transit feeding into it or, specific sites. It has to be thoroughly thought through on a corridor by corridor basis. So we have published a policy which will help guide our work over the next year and look at land use, zoning, densities and intensities, as well as the transit system that we've identified in the long-range transportation plan to help test what we need to do in Palm Beach County to move it forward for better congestion relief. So we're really happy to have that going on. We will continue that work with communities as we develop our transit-oriented communities implementation plan this year. Project number 3, or excuse me, goal number 3, we have launched our interactive project status dashboard. So we're really proud about that. You can see it at palmbeachtpa.org/tip. We also provided a lot of support to our local municipalities across goal number 3, where we helped support and track applications for discretionary grants, providing 12. And in goal number 4, we actually worked with communities to identify upcoming complete streets project improvements across 5 communities and supported 5 project submittals with technical support as an agency as well. For goal number 5, collaborating with partners, we hosted our Safe Streets Summit in February. We're really proud to have hosted that event. It was a great success. We had obviously sold out everything. You couldn't get on a mobile tour. You couldn't register for the conference 2 weeks out. So we're really happy that that event was really well attended. And for goal number 6, administering the agency, we provided trainings to the TPA governing board and TPA staff to get to 67 events to keep not just the staff, but especially our board fresh and sharp when it comes to transportation topics and themes, ensuring that we are, constantly on the cutting edge of transportation planning. So with that in mind, we're going to flip to talk about the 26 draft plan. Where we are going to shift engaging the public to a more educational type goal where we are going to try to participate and get out in the community more and also train the public on how to use our tools. So kind of rolling through some of the highlights, we're going to develop a 5E education toolkit for locals to use, whether it be public, private partners. That's a really exciting concept in transportation planning to just kind of help communities move the topics forward. We're also going to create how-to videos about how to use the transportation, that's the planning agency's online tools. So for example, we'll publish a video of how to use our TPA crash dashboard so that you can kind of better interact with it. It'll be good enough for kind of the everyday person to go and interact, learn about how they can interact, but also for professionals to get an idea of how they can really use these tools that we have available to you all in your work. I already alluded to our transit-oriented communities work, so I'm going to elaborate on our micromobility, pedestrian, and bicycle safety study. Last time we did a county-wide safety study was about 14 years ago, so it's obviously due for a refresh. And what that will look at is it will identify the top corridors for pedestrian and bicycle and micromobility movements and crash patterns, and try to come up with countermeasures and corridor improvements that we would like to see, and a safe routes to school action plan. What we do quite frequently, but it's up for a refresh this year, especially since state legislation has changed, is we actually use statutory language around potentially hazardous walking conditions. And that's, typically the number of vehicles that you have to have on a roadway, proximity to traffic, if there's a buffer or not. And we look at the federal aid eligible network, which is basically the arterials and the collector streets on the transportation network locally. We identify potential projects around schools. So if you're interested in pursuing and helping out with this plan, we're really gearing up for our Safe Routes to Schools action. It's not just going to kind of be this goal 2C, but it also plays into goal 1C with the education toolkit for the 5Es. So we're really happy to be taking on some of that work this year. You will notice that we have obviously updated our list of priority projects last fiscal year. And what that will help us do is it will help harmonize the long-range transportation plan with the list of priority projects. So we have all of our core products kind of speaking to one another. The annual call for projects will happen around October, same timeframe as the Transportation Alternatives Program. And what that will do is that will help us reach out to communities directly and inquire about where their projects sit, if any developments have happened with scope refinement, and help us better understand when we take that next LOPP step again a year from now, what projects we're going to have on the list that we're requesting money for. So the LRTP is going to shift to be a little bit more of an annualized process. We don't have to update the whole plan, but we want to update the project information. That's really what's going to help us shift and get projects, those 1,300 projects that were identified across all the communities in Palm Beach County last year, into that funding list for requesting FDOT's help. For the implementation of projects, we're going to continue our support for communities with project identification, grant application submittals, and safety improvements. But I did want to highlight the updates to the congestion management process. So it's been a little while since we've had an update to that. Currently, the congestion management plan lives under our performance measures that we track everything from bridge conditions, pavement conditions, and other safety metrics and transit conditions. But we're going to refresh the congestion management process this year to also incorporate more information from the Department of Transportation. They're updating a similar plan and effort at the district level, so everywhere from St. Lucie County down to Broward County. So harmonizing those two plans together will really help us speak the same language and have the same type of projects and mentality looking forward. For the last two goals, Goal 5, specifically, we are going to continue our success of hosting events. Obviously, we're very strong in trying to make sure we're collaborating well. Building on the success of the Safe Street Summit, we're going to host what's called a Think Bike Workshop in January. So this is a specific workshop that's going to bring Dutch bikeway design professionals to the Palm Beaches, and we'll have them do a few days of training on Dutch design and network building in January of 2026. So that will be something we're already in negotiations with the Dutch Cycling Embassy about, in addition to hosting local studies, tours, and site visits. So continuing the success of that, we're going to continue rolling with this strong emphasis on facility design. Lastly, for administering the agency, this is the most exciting task, obviously, when we get to talk about financials. We're streamlining our operating procedures this year and creating some SOPs that will follow. But with that, I'm happy to take questions, comments, concerns. If anything that really resonates with you all, I'm happy to work with you on any of these items. If you're really interested and want to learn more, be happy to set up a time with you and my team to work through it. Not, we'll happily also take a recommendation for approval.
First, let's see if there's any public comments.
No, Madam Chair.
Okay. Are there any comments from the group? Joanne?
I would just like to say thank you for the presentation. I actually do look forward to this every year. It's really exciting to see all the things that the TPA has accomplished over the past year. It makes me really personally excited to be a part of this organization. And I like seeing how you all are not afraid to set aggressive goals and then meeting those goals every year. Really great. Great
Thank you.
work. Thank you.
Fadi?
Yeah, could you provide a bit more information about the bike, whatever conference you create?
Sure. So the Think Bike workshop typically follows a visit to the Netherlands. So if you paid attention to our governing board, a few of our members traveled to the Netherlands and Paris in April. I was fortunate enough to join that trip, and I'm very thankful for that training opportunity. What we did was we went and looked at Dutch infrastructure and French infrastructure because they're in two different varying states of completion. Obviously, the Dutch network is very well built out, very well refined. The French network is it's very new for them. They've only really started their cycling revolution as early as like 2016, but they are very aggressive about how they're building out their system. And with the recent events in the Olympics and whatnot, they've really helped to transform, especially the downtown of Paris. So our governing board was obviously the main participants in that, and we had, I believe, 6 members as well as regional partners on that regional trip between Palm Beaches and Miami. And in January, what we hope to do is bring that same team to the Palm Beaches so that we can capture a wider audience of not just the governing board, but also the practitioners locally that work in the field so that we can share the experiences, their stories, and how they've built out their design. So it really is a technical workshop for all of the bike nerds that are out there or anyone that's really working deeply in transportation, how they've handled everything from intersections to conflict points to the network build out is all going to be covered. We'll also have additional workshops that are, we're not going to announce them yet, but they'll be more about like public engagement and ways to strategize around how we can build a better network for everybody.
Would it be like a full day workshop?
It'll be a multi-day workshop.
Multi-day, okay.
Yep. As soon as we have it available, we'll announce it in a similar format. Unfortunately, there is no VZAC in September because we have that micromobility workshop. It's not one of our scheduled committee dates, but we'll email it in our newsletter and whatnot once it's ready.
I have one question on 2026 strategic priorities on implement projects and, identifying projects for complete streets and supporting that. And you have in there going from 5 projects to 3 projects. And I want to know how we get on that list.
I'm sorry. So that's for 5 to 3 projects, and it's also safety projects, I think.
Yeah, it's identify complete streets. So, and it goes, basically, I want to know how does one get on that list to get
Sure.
in line?
So what we typically have done is we've tried to work with communities that have a program in place already. So typically your transportation improvement program or capital improvement program, and we've worked with you all to try to facilitate how we can better enhance projects. So a really good example of that, I think, is the Palm Springs Northeast Second Avenue North Street, where it was really just a utility project at the start, and they were doing their stormwater and making sure that all of that was kind of put together and cobbled together. And then on the back end of it, what we said, you could really, since you're tearing up the entire street, you really could do a much more thorough, complete street concept. So that's the kind of thing that we're looking for, where we're trying to identify projects that are more or less already in the program that are on our federally eligible network, park, somewhere that we can add things to that wouldn't really detriment much else. Because we could rip out the street and put it back just as it was, or we can take the approach of doing some traffic calming, enhancing the sidewalks into multi-use paths, those types of things.
Okay, so I'll talk with you later.
Yeah, if you have projects in your TIP or CIP that you want to talk with, we're happy to help. And
Yes.
sometimes it's as simple as, identifying tactical urbanism, use of flexi-posts or other elements, or it could be more aggressive and adding curbing and whatnot.
So I think this is a lesson for all of us, learning, some of these, no offense to anybody, but this, looking at the list of priority projects and stuff can be daunting. It requires meticulous looks at everybody, not just your municipality, but your neighbors. And being able to understand the ramifications of what all of these columns and rows mean for where either you live or wherever you represent is important, so that you can then connect these dots, make things better, because we have a street in Jupiter that we want to improve. It's a county road, it's Center Street, and we want to move that needle forward in trying to improve it. But also, work with the county, work with the TPA, work with Treasure Coast to come out and find opportunities to create more complete streets in a way that, supports the overall vision, not just regionally in the county, but also, locally. So, these are the opportunities, that when I'm sitting here looking at all of this, that's what I'm doing. I'm like trying to connect all these dots and thinking about how we can make it better, because it's not easy to wrangle through all of this, but as time goes on, it comes, the cream floats to the top, right? So we'll get there. But thank you for that, and we'll talk later.
Okay, great. Look forward to it.
Okay, so
I am asking for a motion, just to
yes. Any further discussion? No? Do I have a motion to recommend adoption of the strategic plan? Body? Do I have a second? Tracy, second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Looks like it's unanimous again. And so we're now on to our information items. And it says here, Brian, you're doing these
actually
advisory.
switched. I'm gonna call Andrew back, but before I do that,
You-
I
you-
know.
days-
I know, we're throwing you for a loop today.
Okay.
But I did want to take a moment. I did miss the opportunity to invite one of our new VZAC members, Farah Tech Valley from Palm Tran. Farah, do you want to introduce yourself briefly?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Farah Tech Bali from Palm Tran. I'm a transit planner. I did attend the Vision Zero Action Plan workshop as well as the Transit Oriented Communities workshop, where I saw the crash dashboard, which was really, really cool. I also attended the Safe Streets Summit, which was awesome. Congratulations on the success of that. And I'm happy to be here. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for being
Welcome.
here. All right,
Welcome, Farah.
Andrew.
Okay, hello again. So this next item, and I'll try to keep it brief, is a long presentation, but we've been through a few of these items already today. This is a committee training overview. So part of our most recent strategic plan was performing more of a training for committees and the governing board, and doing that annually for new members. So this one we're kicking off with training for everyone. And it's just going to have an overview of what we do as a TPA, as a Metropolitan Planning Organization, and sort of how we came into existence. So we are a Metropolitan Planning Organization, MPO. There's 400 plus of us throughout the United States. We plan and prioritize federal and state transportation funds, governing board of 21 locally elected officials, 14 staff who serve for the committees and the governing board, and our vision is a safe, efficient, and connected multimodal transportation system. And so what really is a Metropolitan Planning Organization? So it's a federally mandated agency for urbanized areas with a population greater than 50,000. So we are part of, on the east side, the Miami Metro, Fort Lauderdale, West Palm Beach urban area. the South Florida metropolitan area. And with that urban area, we have split up ours into 3 distinct MPOs. We are the Palm Beach Transportation Planning Agency. And again, we plan to prioritize those funds on the state and federal system. And those federal funds are really meant to be spent in the urban area. On the right side is a map of what that urban area boundary looks like. This is last updated fairly recently. This boundary gets updated in a larger scale every 10 years after the decennial census. So this was approved by the Committees and Governing Board 2 years ago and then sent to the governor for signature. So this is the most recent urban area boundary. There's also urban areas out in the Glades community. And so we plan for the entirety of the county. And then there's funding that's dedicated for urban areas really meant to be spent there for both the Glades and then the metropolitan area to the east. Also part of this process, very importantly, is the public participation and the stakeholder engagement within the transportation planning decisions process. And so that public participation and the stakeholder collaboration is really at the heart of what we do as a metropolitan and planning organization. That's why in our mission, the first word is collaborate, collaboratively plan, prioritize, and fund transportation. And that's really the roots of what a metropolitan planning organization does. So going back to the history of an MPO and why they were created in the first place by Congress, it really starts with the Eisenhower administration, and it was the largest infrastructure investment in the history of our nation, which was the interstate highway system, which we still expand into today and are spending money towards. But with that, into the 1960s, when it rolled out this interstate highway system, is really a top-down approach to how we wanted to roll it out. So there was a lack of really stakeholder collaboration at the local level. And because of that, you know, it did dissect communities through its creation. It brought on other challenges with traffic diversion from existing communities. Think of something like US 1 or the Turnpike, and bring that on something like the interstate system. And so through this, there was really a push at the local level and then through Congress to create some mechanism for stakeholder engagement from locals. And so because of that, we had the Federal Aid Highway Act of 1962 was the first time that regional transportation needed to be taken into account. And then MPOs were required for those urbanized areas in 1973. After that, we had our first governing board meeting, 1977. And with that, we also adopted our year 2000 plan, looking out 25 years in the future. Since then, we've had multiple types of federal transportation bills come through the years. I list on the screen a few of the ones that are in the past 2 decades most relevant to us. And I mentioned this last presentation for the tip. Our most recent was that 2021 IIJA. And then now we're up for reauthorization that's starting here in 2026. But through all that, you know, collaborative planning is really still at the core of what an MPO does. Through these bills, we might have requirements for the money and the eligibility of the funding we have. It may be performance measures that we're required to track, and then the planning decisions that we need to put in there and emphasis on our plans. But it's really at the core of still that collaboration effort. Structurally, sort of how we work with our other larger partners. We have the US DOT, and then USD has multiple agencies. The ones we work most closely with are the Federal Highway Administration and the Federal Transit Administration. There's also Federal Rail and all those, but the two that we have a direct collaboration with through our planning process and the funding that we receive is through FHWA and FTA. Then at the state level, we do have Florida Department of Transportation, and we work more closely with our district offices. We're in District 4. And then regionally, to make up the Miami urbanized area, South Florida, is Miami-Dade MPO, Palm Beach, and then Broward MPO. And so us three together is that Southeast Florida Transportation Council, where we come together and collaborate. And then at the county level, we have our local decision makers with our agencies, the public, and our advisory committees. our urbanized area here in our region, just a little more details. The TPA, as an MPO, does not own or operate anything, right? So we're really a combination, coordination between all these different entities. So our main roadway owners are the county and FDOT, which maintain the majority of our federal aid eligible network. And there's the other portion of that is the locals who are on that network. We got 39 municipalities. We're a part of the 3-county region of Southeast Florida. And then we have multiple transportation partners that we work with, right? So mentioned the larger ones, county and DOT and the locals on the roadways, but we also have Palm Tran, Port of Palm Beach, Tri-Rail, airports, and then our planning councils, along with our private providers such as Brightline. Our governing board is 21 locally elected officials, and that is determined by statute. We are required to have a certain makeup of the board of representing at least 70% of the population that's affected. So with that, we have 13 largest municipalities, 5 of 70 county commissioners, and then we have 1 Port of Palm Beach representative. Also serving as a non-advisory is FDOT. Committee structure, 3 main advisory committees for the TPA. 2 of those are required. The Technical Advisory Committee, which sees technical review of items. The Citizens Advisory Committee, also a required one by law, which that citizens lens on transportation. And then you all, the Vision Zero Advisory Committee, which is not a required committee by statute, but really with a focus on our most vulnerable users with pedestrians and bicyclists, and linking that to safety. That's really the purpose there. And then we have the Transportation Disadvantaged Local Coordinating Board. So this isn't always an MPO role, but here locally for us, we coordinate that. So the TD LCB meets 4 times a year here in this building with Palm Tran. And so that board evaluates and plans for that local paratransit service in collaboration with Palm Tran. And then although you are advisory committees, you are subject to Florida Sunshine Law. So still fall under the same requirements for Florida Sunshine Law. A little bit more focus on the Vision Zero Advisory Committee. That's a live shot of me presenting right now. But made up of advocates from various fields, probably more, I guess, well-rounded committee when it has multiple types of stakeholders and partners. So planners, engineers, law enforcement, other safety advocates, healthcare, and the school district. What's unique about this committee, which allows us to operate a little bit differently than other committees, is some of the items that all the core products you will see at least once. So those major products of our list of priority products, those tips, all those you will see. But this gives us a little bit more flexibility on focusing on some other ones that are more safety related. And not just for this committee, but some of the other committees we're trying to focus as well, with the CAC as being one of them, is trying to provide other opportunities that are not just in the same sort of forum and redundant of sort of going through the motions on some items that are required. But with this one specifically, we can be a little bit more flexible in how we push forward some initiatives and use your time more wisely. Core products. We got 4 main ones. All 400 plus of us throughout the nation adopt these 4 core products. Unified Planning Work Program, which sets that 2-year sort of planning and how we're going to sort of carry out the planning process in the next 2 years with our staff and consultants. Our long range transportation plan vision, the tip that you saw today, and then public participation plan. The Unified Planning Work Program, it's a 2-year planning document, sets out the activities that we're going to do on the TPA side with staff and consultants to carry that out, and all the deliverables in that. And it's really sort of how we seek, there's federal funds that we receive as an agency, again, from FHWA and FTA. So it gets in this plan. And this is really that request to start using those funds towards these activities that are identified. And so what you see in this plan is the budget and the funding sources broken down by those federal funds, the staff or consultants who are working on what the deliverable is going to be, and then the completion dates. And this is all wrapped up into still meeting federal and state requirements for those. So with this, the feds are also sort of certifying the agency every 4 years in our activities to ensure that we're carrying out the federal process and requirements by law. The state certifies us every year on their requirements. So we do have this ongoing certification process. But the way this works as an agency, we are a grant reimbursement basis. So we perform the work, or consultants perform the work. And then every month we present those deliverables, like this is what you accomplished through the Unified Plan and Work Program, and we're seeking reimbursement. So there's a federal reimbursement process. Next is the Long Range Transportation Plan, 25-year planning horizon, just updated this recently, adopted in December of 2024. We update this every 5 years. Really, it's that long-term vision, and we carry forward products from that into the list of priority products in the TIP. Sets forth sort of the growth and development. So we're looking at long-range trends, 2025 or 25 years out to 2050. And so with those long-range trends, we're looking at demands of our different types of modes and transportation needs. And then with that, we identify projects and how we should invest over the next 25 years based on funding forecasts. That then gets filtered in the short term into the Transportation Improvement Program that we talked more about in this prior presentation. One thing I wanted to note, just like our Unified Plan and Work Program, is these really work on a lot of grant reimbursement spaces. So our Unified Plan and Work Program, when that gets adopted and we start, that's an approval by FDOT and FHWA to start doing those activities, and then we get reimbursed. It's very similar on the product side, where when the product, like a product manager for FDOT, is looking to start activities on their phases for their project, same process is occurring. They're going and trying to get approval from their central office, and then also FHWA that says, yes, look, the Transportation Improvement Program is consistent with what you're asking for. You have approval there. So that's where the tip comes in, is they're going to look at it for consistency to ensure that they can sign off on the type of product that's occurring and that the funds have actually been approved at the MPO level. So that's how it sort of wraps in to that. Lastly, we have a public participation plan, our PPP, and this really outlines how we're going to do that planning process with the public and our stakeholders. And with that, it covers all of our core products and the requirements for those core products. So how long are we going to have our public review period for all of our core products, the TIP, the LRTP, and how are we going to do that public commenting period and outreach? It's updated as needed, but we typically do a major refresh right before the adoption of it or start of an LRTP, because it's such a large process that it's recommended to really take a good look at it then. And then for regional coordination, we mentioned Southeast Florida Transportation Council, 3 counties, 1 traveling public, just adopted our regional transportation plan for 2050. That brings together all the 3 individual LRTPs into one unified document, and it really sets that larger scale visionary aspect of it and how we're moving as a region. And then also through that, it sort of sets policy parameters, like what we want to push as a region from a policy perspective with all of our partners at the regional, at the state, and at the federal level. Our region is growing by roughly 33,000 people every year. So another 1 million people are going to be added over the next 25 years, going to reach over 7 million people by 2050. And then funding sources. So we talk a lot about federal and state funding sources. That's really what we have approval over as a metropolitan planning organization. And then with those on the federal side, the largest amounts are fuel taxes. And then after that, we have other sources, heavy vehicle use, vehicle sales. And then oftentimes, because there is a efficiency in vehicles, and there's a cost estimate increases on a lot of projects, that federal amount that can be spent towards transportation doesn't really get us as far as it used to with all that. So we're sort of leveling off and declining with fuel tax revenues. And because of that, Congress has more recently started using general revenue funds to sweep into transportation. So there's been a discussion at the federal level about how they can fill that gap with different types of means of revenue sources. And so those are still being explored. State, very similar, with fuel taxes being the main revenue source there. There's other taxes and revenue sources out there with dock stamp tax, which had some overhaul in this past legislative session, aviation fuel taxes, and then surcharges on rental cars. Again, state being the largest, the fuel tax being the largest revenue source there. And then there are other transportation revenue sources that are used towards transportation at the local level. We don't have direct say over those, but we do our best to show those when we can. Again, local fuel taxes is a large revenue source there. There's road and mobility fees. Property tax ad valorem is a common source for locals. And there has been local surtaxes. We had an infrastructure surtax that's expiring here that went towards a lot of maintenance. And so that's no longer to be in place this coming year. We talked already about the list of priority products and how products get from product development through the LRTP all the way to the tip. And then we talked a little bit about the production pipeline and how products work through that production pipeline. Always trying to find ways to accelerate products when we can. Starting to flag products a little bit more with our partners and with FDOT to see if there's other means out there to be more creative in how we deliver products. So still working with that on collaboration. I know that's one of the issues our stakeholders really want to see is how we can move things more quickly and accelerate those. And then I think this is my last slide. So it's the last slide between you guys and hot dogs, or maybe it's, you got another one. There's more, okay. After that then. But learn more and get involved. There's a lot of resources out there. Our online map has tons of infrastructure layers. We keep our products updated, big passion of ours. Both of our staff on our side are working towards that with Kevin, our intern, and Matthew Massa, our tip coordinator, who are really trying to provide all the local products and stay on the status of all the federal and state products as well. So newsletters, events to be involved in that Brian mentioned throughout. So that's it.
Thank you, Andrew. Do we have any public comments, Ruth?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay, any committee member comments? Thank you for this. I've been on this board for 6 years and I learned something new. So it's good to have an overview. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Our next item is the TPA Vision Zero Action Plan. And this will be presented by, okay, Brian. I'm just guessing.
You're just going back and forth. We're
Yeah,
trying to keep
okay.
you all on your toes. Okay, I promise I'll try to take as little time as possible, but I do want to give this some love. So just bear with me for a few more minutes and then we'll get to the Safe Streets and Roads for All update and we'll get out of here. So our TPA Road to Vision Zero started back in 2016 and really earlier than that, but this is the first formal policy that kind of recognized the reduction in crashes as a serious need for the agency with our complete streets policy. Over the years, that has evolved and taken different shapes through our complete streets design guidelines in 2018. We adopted the Vision Zero goal formally in 2018, and then through time, we have updated our Vision Zero action plan once in 2021, and now we are on our second update in 2025. And we are updating this to ensure that we are capturing the moment as best as we can. Administration changes, policy changes all impact the programming that we're taking on. And so we're trying to respond to those and still be proactive and engage with Vision Zero as our goal. Some of the more recent highlights include obviously our crash dashboard, which evolved from our ped bike quarterly reports, and our speed management plan, which was a study that we produced last year with FDOT and consultants' assistance. Our approach to Vision Zero is first and foremost data informed. We always are keeping an eye on crash data as part of our analysis. We do want to evolve that to look more at risk analysis rather than just looking at where crashes have occurred. There are risk profiles that you can use for roadways where you look at speeds, characteristics, crash history of the entire community, and then you look at where crashes potentially are happening. There's also new data available such as near miss, hard braking, rapid acceleration data that you can get from vehicles that is out there. We actually have access to it now thanks to Palm Beach County through their Safe Streets and Roads for All update process through September. So we're trying to, analyze some of that data and see where it falls. All be told, we do have a process where it's cyclical. We're constantly keeping an eye on the data, ensuring that we are updating our actions as necessary and that we're performing as best we can, and publishing our reporting measures to track progress and transparency across the life cycle of these plans. In the past 5 years, this is not surprising to this committee. I think you see a slide that's similar in nature to it every time we meet, but crashes over the past 5 years have resulted in more deaths, which is obviously on an upward trajectory, whereas serious injuries are on a more of a downward trajectory. So we've discussed that ad nauseum, but that is reflected more in the plan. We do have a crash analysis, and I'm not going to read each of these data points. I think it'd be worthwhile to please go and take a look at some of the plan elements and see what kind of stands out to you all. Let us know if you have questions or inquiries or want to know more about a specific corridor. But one highlight that I think is important for everyone to understand is that even though biking and walking accounts for just 3% of mode share for people getting to work, it represents 43% of the crash fatalities that we see in Palm Beach County, according to the data year that we used, 2019 to 2023. So the 5 V's approach that we are taking in Palm Beach County, at the Palm Beach TPA, for the area is engineering, evaluation, education, enforcement, and encouragement. We developed these and we reviewed them last month at the Vision Zero workshop. So we'll dive into these a little bit more in specifics. But before we do, we want you to understand that these all are intended to create a redundant system. So think of Swiss cheese. You have a bunch of holes that are kind of in different places as you go through that nice, delicious thing. But what and how it applies to the overall system is that if we can ensure that if there is enforcement or evaluation that can catch a crash or prevent a serious crash from happening, we're going to try to do that. So what's represented in the graphic on the top is that we've already tried education, it's failed. We've tried engineering, it's failed. We've tried encouragement, it has failed. In this instance, enforcement is the thing that has prevented a serious or fatal crash from happening because we've stopped a road user from maybe engaging in risky or dangerous behavior. And the result on the bottom, you're missing or none of the things that have captured that crash from happening. So education hasn't worked, engineering hasn't worked, encouragement hasn't worked, enforcement. So the purpose of providing that redundancy framework is that if one thing maybe doesn't work for one user, it might catch somewhere else. So if maybe engineering doesn't work at the front end, maybe enforcement does. Our encouragement is another really, really strong emphasis in our area for us here at the TPA, where we are trying constantly to ensure that road users are getting into and using the road system safely. I know that resonates really well with some of our private partners here through all the safety encouragement efforts that we do, as well as law enforcement when they do safety campaigns. So dive into the strategies. Obviously, engineering, we are very strong supporters of our local agencies, not just through our funding mechanisms and programs, but also through the trainings that we offer. We reflected very strongly in that through our Safe Street Summit, and we will continue to work with you all through a series of workshops and events this year. We already mentioned that we are going to be hosting an FDOT design review workshop. We are going to be hosting a micromobility workshop. We are going to have a Think Bike workshop. So we are very strong in ensuring that engineering is very well focused on in our strategies. Enforcement is newer to us, but it's a really welcome and large part of the work that we're getting involved with, especially as new topics come online with speed management and speeding in school zones has been a big area of focus for us recently. We know the county's been doing some work in evaluating school zones violations recently, and the sheriff's office has been doing some wonderful work with trying to get that program implemented here locally. With respect to evaluation, think about our programs that we have where we go out into the community. We perform walk audits with our partners at either DOT, the county, or TPA-led walk audits, where we go out and we evaluate constantly the work that's been done in the field. Evaluation also includes the data elements that we have through our crash dashboard and evaluation methodologies that we want to have for before and after studies of roadway improvements. There have been some really great prominent local examples. I think the peanut about example that I remember Stephanie speaking to a few years ago up in Jupiter is a wonderful example, and others that are coming. I know that Palm Springs is also working on a tactical urbanism project currently for their Safe Streets and Roads for All program. In terms of education and engagement campaigns, we do want to make sure that we are constantly out in the field and educating about the safe use of the system. This differs from encouragement. I think education has to largely do with, what is actually going on with the road system, how to safely use the system. Encouragement has to is more about reaching the users itself. So it's not just, they are separate, they are distinct from one another. And I did want to point that out. We try to follow as best we can the methodology from partners that resonate with us well at the MPO. There's obviously discussion about what other emphasis areas or what other E's could we have included. As an agency that focuses on fulfilling the goals of the grant agreement that we have with FHWA, these are the 5 E's that we have landed on and that we're going to continue pushing forward through the plan. So I encourage you all to please go take a look. Have a read. Again, more good 4th of July material. So not an action item, but I'll happily take any questions or comments on it.
Ruth, do we have any public comments?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay. Anyone on the committee have any body?
Yeah, I just want to mention regarding the safety view access we have until September. We have 2 intern students working on it, try to get as much information from it as we need. It has some intelligent, basically it has some AI system where you can ask it, give me the highest 3 segment with whatever, and with risk factor and stuff. So, I mean, those 2 persons are really very smart. And if you need any assistance or anything specific you need, for your thing to extract from that, we can coordinate and help you with that.
Yeah, maybe we should set up a standing meeting, Fadi, you and I, just until that license expires. Thank you.
Thanks for the update. And if we can move on to the next item, Safe Streets and Roads for All update. And is this Andrew?
No, this is me. You got me again. I'll give Andrew a break. Sorry, Andrew.
Okay, Brian.
Just a really brief note. We know of 4 communities that have applied to the Safe Streets and Roads for All program. That was the deadline of June 26th, I believe. Village and Wellington, my notes are getting pulled up now. So we have Lake Worth, Palm Springs, Wellington, and Boca Raton have all submitted for various grants on top of the things that are currently ongoing. We have received updates from the city of Delray Beach that they've scored their RFP, so hopefully that should be closing sometime soon. But if any other communities wants to provide an update or would like to see, present some information about what the work is that they're doing locally, would be helpful. I know we talked previously about a potential presentation from Palm Springs on their tactical urbanism process. Maybe if there's some findings on the county's plan when we get a little bit further into it later in the year. We don't meet until October, so I'm open to hearing agenda items for you all to either today or afterwards. We provide this every meeting just to make sure that you all are aware, and if you know people or you have information, this is actually a hyperlinked PDF. If you see that blue text, so you can click on it on your work computer or your home computer and then forward, for example, the survey in Wellington to friends that you might know there and say, hey, this survey is live, could you think about taking it for road safety? So that's what we've got so far.
Thank you. Ruth, are there any public comments? Do we have any body?
Yeah, I just want to mention, I mean, for the county road that are municipal areas, I mean, we're really here to work with you. I know some of them have SS4A plans, some of them have other ideas. Typically, I think jurisdiction kind of becomes for the municipal, but we're here to work to help whatever ideas you have. Please let us know.
Great. Thank you. Joanne?
I just wanted to provide an update that our draft plan is currently under review by staff and will be published for public comment and review sometime this summer and hopefully adoption this fall.
Tracy?
There's a question mark
Mhm.
there down at the bottom. I am 100% sure that application was submitted.
Oh, yes, we do need to make those updates. Yes, so we'll remove that. Sorry, I did not update that this morning. We published the copy with the agenda and we forgot to remove all the questions from there after getting our update from Delray Beach, who wasn't able to make it today. So thank you. Appreciate that.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, so then the next items are for information only. There's no staff presentation. And our next meeting is October 2nd. And I actually appreciate that because then it gives us the opportunity to attend these meetings. The one in August 19th, the FDOT design project design workshop, and the e-bike micromobility in September. So we'll see you all in October, October 2nd. Have a great rest of the summer. Right, no hurricanes. I'm with you. So we'll see you October 2nd. Thank you all.